listen, it's Jubilee time. This is just an interesting video that I was interested in general. But then, of course, August, and for people who know, August will harass me about every new Jubilee video that she finds interesting, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that, you know, because it's helpful. All right, just sending me content. Appreciate it. But it's called "Do All Killers Think the Same?" You know, I imagine that they probably have a similar train of thought because they are in the same band together. So let's see what we got here.
I did immediately regret it in a sense where I called my mom and I apologized to her and I said, I'm so sorry, I think I killed your husband.
What's the context? Oh my God.
But then there was also the sense of like, oh my gosh, I don't have to keep looking over my shoulders anymore. I don't have to live in this fear that he's going to actually come after me because it already happened. Well,
there's a context. Sounds like he may have deserved it. So. I wonder why they didn't ask me to come on, because I haven't told you guys this, but I've actually been there. You know, I've killed before. Killed my wife's pussy. Boom. I should probably edit that out.
I would kill them again.
Jesus Christ, that's really jumping into the really jumping right into it. Oh my Lord.
2, 1, go.
All right. A lot of them have said they would.
Ogden was a beautiful person, and he was my friend. And
who'd he kill?
What happened was an accident, and I would give anything to have him back.
What is this, like a manslaughter?
My name's Forrest, and I accidentally shot and killed my best friend when I was 23 years old.
Why is your name Forrest? Okay. I mean, who am I, right?
I felt like a shattered person most of my life, and there are still shards missing.
Babe, love, what do I need to get to the grocery store for dinner? When I went to the grocery store, babe, everything that was refrigerated wasn't available because there was some kind of maintenance, so anything on the list from that.
But I just spent the last 5 years writing a very painful memoir. It gave me an opportunity to visit a lot of past trauma. I feel in a strong space to be a support for other survivors and create positivity in the world.
All my killing has been in the time of war, so I agree with what I've done, but I do it again, I would, because if I didn't kill that individual, he would have killed me or somebody else. I was a sniper, so I'm looking after a platoon of 20, 30 guys, sometimes as small as 6 guys. But I don't strongly agree.
Bro, I would never. I don't think I got it in me to be in the military, man. That stuff's like rough. Even if it's like you consider like a justifiable killing, man, it's got to still mess you up. There's no way. You know, you have to come out the other side like just having a different interpretation of the world. You know, I feel like taking someone else's life may take away your humanity, in at least part of it in some capacity, man. That would mess me up. I don't think I could do that. That's too rough.
With it because of the after effects, like what it did to me mentally. You know, I was the first person I killed. I was 18, and I didn't stop until I was almost 25. So
Jesus Christ.
I don't regret any of it. I don't have any bad feelings towards those individuals that I did kill. They were just protecting their homeland just as much as I would too. So I would do it again to save my life or somebody else's life.
I work in healthcare. What I do is I manage life support. So I'm the guy that pulls the plug on just about everybody. So I come from a very different perspective. I have to do that for babies all the way to like people at the end of their lives. I've been doing it for like over a dozen years now. So I'm like, okay, I've come to terms with what the job is. Yeah.
The crime and how it happened, it was not, I didn't go out to kill this person. And now understanding the impact that the crime had, not only on me, but the family of that person. That was a human being that I killed over some drugs.
Was this like, what over drugs? Was it like gang related or something? Okay.
Right, and his children, his family is living still in the absence of this person. It was December the 24th, Christmas Eve night. I remember me and a couple of my friends were hanging out. This particular car came up, and the passenger in the car said, hey, I want to buy some drugs from you. So I told one of my friends, I'm like, he's known to be this person that would come through the community and ask for $100 worth of drugs, but he would never have some money. And the guy did exactly what I said. He knocked the drugs out of my friend's hand, grabbed his arm, and started speeding off. And my reaction at that time was I pulled out the gun and I started shooting into the car to get him to release my friend. And days later, we heard that the bullet that I shot into the car actually killed him. To that day, I will never forget December the 24th, when that happened, the day before Christmas.
I would 100% do what I had to do over it.
And you shouldn't be selling drugs, but I mean, someone's trying to steal from you. I don't know. Seems like a little bit of a gray area, if you ask me.
Again, because the guy was a serial perpetrator. He was after so many women. If he killed me, he would have went after my mom, all my family, my nieces, my nephews, every one of us, until he literally got what he wanted. I'm Tara Newell. I killed my attacker, Dirty John Meehan, in self-defense. I think it was really...
This guy has a name? Well, I've never ever his names, but Jesus. Wow.
Interesting how there was one person here who had experienced prison reform, because to me, my attacker would have been in there if I hadn't killed him in self-defense. And it's really interesting to hear about how there are people in there who are able to rehabilitate.
I immediately regret.
I mean, that guy that seemed to be from prison reform, based on his circumstance, I could see how he could be reformed, right? I mean, it's one thing to do it in cold blood. It's another thing someone's stealing from you. Even though, like, drugs are illegal, you shouldn't be selling drugs. But, like, there's a different, you know what I mean? Like, it's different from, you know, it's just like, oh, let's just kill a guy. You know, there's this horrible story where this woman was driving an Uber, and this guy got into the back of her car, and it's horrible, and immediately pulled a gun on her, and, you know, she was the Uber driver, and was like, you know, started directing her, and she was like, I have like 4 kids, man, like I'm doing this, you know what I mean? It's horrible, and he ended up having her turn off the camera, and eventually, after driving for like an hour or so, he killed her. That's somebody who cannot be rehabilitated, in my opinion, at least. You know, not a hot take, am I right? It's just terrible, you know, just terrible.
Did it. 3, 2, 1, go.
I immediately regretted it. Let's see. Strongly disagree. Damn, this army guy's probably like hard as hell, man. Like, he's gone through some stuff. I could see why the other guy would disagree with that, because he was like, he's like somebody who helps euthanize people.
Why do I strongly disagree? Yeah. Like I said, I was a young kid. I was 18. The first guy I killed was with a 50 caliber like machine gun. I was expecting it to be like the movies where you have this like feeling of when you kill someone, and it wasn't there. I didn't really feel anything. It wasn't until like that night I had this weird dream. The guy who I shot became the ceiling fan in my room. His arms and legs were the blades, his head was the center of the fan, and I watched him spin faster and faster until he tore apart and covered me in what he used to be, what was left of him. But no, I didn't feel anything. There was nothing like to feel. I knew that was the beginning of something that I was probably going to have to do for a while.
Bro, this guy's terrifying me. Jesus Christ. Holy moly. This guy's terrifying the hell out of me, bro. Okay. Cool, I guess.
No attachment at the time.
I can agree with you on that. I mean, identify with that, because my first couple of years inside of prison, I detached from it completely. When people would mention his name, I would don't see him as a human being. And that was very insensitive when I look back at it now, right? But I look and say that was a way of me coping with the situation at that time.
I did immediately regret it in a sense, where I called my mom and I apologized to her and I said, I'm so sorry, I think I killed your husband. So there was that, but then there was also the sense of like, oh my gosh, I don't have to keep looking over my shoulders anymore. I don't have to live in this fear that he's gonna actually come after me, because it already happened.
Sometimes family members don't agree with the decision, and that decision is sometimes taken away from them. Been called every name in the book as I'm walking in there, but they just don't agree, and then I'm like, I just have to go do this now, you know? Yeah. But it doesn't feel good, or like, I'm not necessarily agreeing with it, so I'm like, I disagree, yeah.
The level of heartbreak that I felt immediately after that gunshot was indescribable. And I don't know if any of you have saw Red before, but I actually saw Red.
Like, what's this dude's context? Like, did he just like accidentally shoot his friend, and like were they messing around with a gun? Like, I don't know.
And it was the most horrific thing I've ever seen, experienced, witnessed, felt in my life. I got charged with first-degree murder that night, and I was looking at doing 35 to life here in California. I couldn't even process that. There was just so much a combination of horror and grief immediately.
I am desensitized to death. 3, 2,
yeah, well,
1,
that fucking army
go.
guy certainly is.
Somewhat agree. Why is that?
Yeah, why is that?
I do a lot of volunteer work, and the amount of people who are...
Wait, what? How did they say they strongly disagree? There's no way that this army guy is not desensitized to death. I just don't believe him when he says that. There's just no way. Like, this guy has got to be dude, the way that he talks about it, like, he's got no remorse. Even if he figured out, like, and he doesn't dehumanize them, because he even says, hey, those were just kind of part of the job. Those people were defending their lands. We were here doing our thing. And There's no way that he doesn't desensitize death. Absolutely, dude. This guy's the fucking soul. This one, this soldier isn't even aware of himself. That's crazy, man. Holy fuck.
Why is that?
Yeah, why is that?
I do a lot of volunteer work, and the amount of people who are dying from drug overdoses and suicides right now in the arena of trauma, it's becoming difficult for me to feel anything anymore with the amount of people that we're losing that we don't have to.
For me, it was almost like playing God, you know? I determined the time, place, when I'm gonna take that person off this planet. And it put things into perspective for me too, that I could be going at any certain time. Like when you have to pull it, you know, you don't know when that card is gonna be pulled. So I've learned to value it more and know that it's very fragile, very frail. And to not feel anything towards killing someone would probably be more devastating to me than actually taking a life. It's not feeling.
Jesus.
Hold on, I need to clarify something.
Yep.
I just want to be very clear that being desensitized in no way means that I don't value life.
Oh, yeah.
It's just difficult to feel the mourning over and over again.
Over and over again.
Yeah, like I agree with you. Like there will be certain stories that I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. But if someone just tells me like, oh, that person died of a heart attack, I'm just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like it just like there's no traumatic incident with that. So I'm like, my brain just disassociates, and it's like, okay. Oh, they died naturally, so.
And from where I come from, like I get to know a lot of these people. If I don't get to know them, I get to know their family members like very intimately. It's not immediate, like, oh, they're coming in and they're gonna go. No, it's like weeks, months. I've had somebody like their 5-year-old son, and he was in the room, and I'm like, I gotta take your mom away now. And it's like,
Damn.
after that, I'm like, oh my God, I'll go call my mom or I'll go call my dad. It's like, it's really heavy. But I feel, like you said, like a sense of maximization of like, I don't know when my number is going to be called, because even if I'm working in the emergency room, we worked on somebody for 2 hours, and they're like, we really can't do anything anymore. And I'm like, just like that, gone. I remember this one patient, it was very much like nobody was there. They just found him on the street. He didn't even have a wallet. He was clinically dead brain-wise, so we couldn't really do anything anymore. Me, the nurse, and the doctor just stayed in that room until his heart rate left, because we didn't want to see him.
I mean, you have to get desensitized to death, I feel like, if you're working in like the medical industry in some capacity, right? Because there's no way. Like that's a horrific thing. Like you just gotta, or else you're just gonna be constantly like upset. Right? So at least that's what I think.
Leave by himself. That was one of the most sobering moments too. It's like, as much as it was nice for us to do that, I just don't want strangers around me, seeing me off.
I think for me as a teenager, selling drugs, just hanging in the streets, just living a lifestyle that I didn't care if I killed someone. I was very desensitized. I didn't care. I didn't feel no remorse for it. And this was part of my own personal development. I needed to find a way to attach to that. So I started doing this hospice training inside of one of the prisons. By listening to these individuals tell their story and the regrets that they were living with in their process of transitioning, it gave me a sense of a value of life now. It shifted my mindset as this teenager who was very callous towards life at that time.
I've taken care of people. They're being on life support. They'll hang on for like a.
It's interesting, only because like it seems like he's developed more empathy as he's gotten older, which I think is a very normal thing. But I don't know. I had like a similar thing where I wasn't super. I feel like I wasn't super sensitive to things like themes of death when I was younger, just fundamentally. And as I've gotten older, I've gotten more sensitive to those themes, especially after I got married. You know what I mean? Like when you get married, especially when you've. Excuse me, I got a little heartburn. When you fall in love with somebody, it's like I think that you become very desensitive, or you become more sensitive to death, because you realize like you could lose that at any point. It becomes a lot more real to you. Especially part of that too is like as you get more aware of like health issues and stuff as well, or your own health issues in some capacity, and you realize like, wow, like my body isn't able to eat disgusting, copious, amounts of food anymore and survive. I have to start watching what I eat. So that's an interesting thing, and I wonder if some of that bad lifestyle that he engaged in was because of that, was partially because of that, just being desensitized from not being old enough. I think that there's part of that's like a man thing too. It takes a longer time to actually, be more empathetic.
A very long time till one specific person sometimes just visits them. And then I'm like, I can't explain that. I could take them off, and their heart rate will keep going and going and going.
One of the guys I was working with in the prison, he wanted to see his sister. Yeah. So this dude held on until like his sister walked into the room. And he was like not consciously, but like she spoke to him and she started like talking to him, and you started seeing him move. And then soon as she was like, I'm leaving. And like within minutes, it's kind of like transition.
Yeah, with my situation, I made him brain dead, and so he was in the hospital. And then when they pulled the plug on him, my mom literally had to tell him it's okay to go now. Damn. And then he left.
Wow. Some weird things about that.
Yeah.
That's bizarre. So he was an abusive. That's just so weird, man. Like abusive man, and I guess, you know, you fall in love with the wrong guy. You know? I wonder what the situation is. You know, I wonder if she was an enabler of that abuse. I'm not trying to be rude to her, you know. I'm not saying she was in an easy situation. I'm talking about her mother that married. From what I understand, he had a name. It seemed like he was like an abusive person. I'm assuming sexually abusive, but I don't really know. I wonder if there was some kind of, I don't know. It's complicated.
Yeah. I think we're more than just our brain, right?
Yeah. We're spirits living in flesh, man. Yeah. That's all.
Maybe.
I am also a victim. 3, 2, 1, go.
I feel weird.
We're not trying to single you out.
But I feel like I have to be over.
I'm also a victim. Let's see. She definitely, this makes 100% sense. She definitely is a victim, 100%. She's the way I look at it is when somebody aggresses onto you and forces you to have to respond, and that response sometimes is unfortunately, you know, death. I feel like you're a victim because taking someone's life is a horrible thing that you can't undo that. You know, you can't put a Band-Aid on that. You're pretty much, you know, you're different for the rest of your life. You're desensitized in some capacity. So I absolutely believe that she's a victim in some capacity. Like, you know, she shouldn't have had to do that. She shouldn't have had to do something like that. So.
Jesus Christ super chatted $5. I am playing Sussy Among Us, so I didn't realize until now, but thank you for playing Dead Cells.
No problem.
Absolute best game.
It's not bad. It's something to do.
Because the guy came after me. I was in a parking garage. I was just trying to go to the Jason Aldean concert that night. He started attacking me, stabbing me, and I fought back and I won. So I didn't ask for any of that. I honestly hated the guy, and I wished he would be dead, but I never wanted to unalive or take someone's life.
My first couple years in prison, I saw myself as the victim, right? And that was, again, a way of me coping. As I continued to do some interpersonal work, I realized that I was not a victim, that I still made a choice in the crime that I committed, right? But I just wanted to share that. Like I wanted to run over there, but I'm in this place of healing and reconciliation, and I had to like move away from the victimization mindset and take ownership for the decision that I actually pulled the trigger, committed the crime, unfortunately, and someone died, and I have to take that on because that's part of my own personal growth and development. I remember on a Friday night, 3 years into my incarceration, I remember laying in my bed watching this show called Dateline, and for the first time, I heard a mother really expressing her loss for the loss of her loved one, and was that moment in my life where I connected with that. I'm like, yo, I did the same thing, and I went into a fetus position and I started praying, and all I kept hearing hearing this voice saying, I have forgiven you. You have to ask Gary, the guy that you killed, to forgive you. And in that process, this is where I began. I remember saying, Gary, would you forgive me? And I literally felt like in that moment, he forgave me, and I heard it. And it's almost like a weight was lifted off of me, and that's when I began this cleansing, this process of healing and moving forward and finding a purpose and finding my voice and all of that particular night inside of that prison when I surrendered to it.
No, I don't feel like I'm a victim for anything. Like I chose that path. Started off wanting to be a Navy SEAL when I was like in elementary school. My mom helped me make my first ghillie suit when I was in the 6th grade. Like it's something I've always wanted to do. And
interesting.
I knew it came with that, which was more than likely having to kill someone, especially in a time of war.
Yeah, I'm not a victim.
Thank you, Colin Reed. I appreciate that.
But the only thing I would say is like they don't really prepare us into doing the job that we do. They do the data dating. Oh, this is what you do, this is what you chart, and all that stuff. And then now you're like, oh, by the way, the doctor wrote the order. Go take him off, and now I gotta walk in, or like if it's a baby, they're still holding them in their hands and stuff, and like go take them off. And so I never really thought about it. Like nobody's like talked to me or anything. Like, by the way, this is where you're gonna feel afterwards, or like when you get home after you clock out and everything like that.
Yeah, we didn't have a handbook on that either. Like, yeah, they teach you how to kill, but there's no
how to process
it.
Yeah.
I have profited from the murder. 3.
In what way? What an interesting question. Like financially, or are they talking about some kind of a spiritual profit? Because that's just a very interesting question. Okay.
2, 1, go.
Well, the military guy definitely, like, literally profited. He got money-wise. The other guy who works for that definitely got a profit. Okay.
So-called murder.
That word's kind of
strong. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Why don't you like that word? I don't like it
All
either.
right, I don't think it applies universally.
Yeah.
Right? Homicide is a universal term. As far as profiting from any part of my story, no. I've spent the last 5 years struggling to write and publish a book, and I've spent about 80 G's on it.
This guy's getting weirder the more I watch him. He's getting weird the more I watch him. He's like, I understand the writing a book. There's something weird about him. But, okay.
And made about 4,000, and that's not why I did it. I did it because I want to help people, but I don't think that it's very common for people to profit off of recovery from stuff, right? Well, maybe it is. I don't know.
I guess I'll go over here then. My attacker, my show got made into a podcast called Dirty John, and then it got made into a documentary, a TV show on Bravo, and now on Netflix. And so
really,
I felt like I've been exploited in the sense because I did not make anything off of the podcast. Although people think I profited off my story, I did not.
Interesting. Huh. Interesting. Okay, I'm just like taking that in. So this woman had to kill somebody. I'm assuming a murder. I think I was wrong about the sexual person before. And the documentary was made about her. And frankly, I think that she does deserve some money. I mean, she had, like, again, I'd talked before about how she was forced to kill somebody. You know, she didn't, obviously, I doubt she wanted to do that. You know, and that's something that'll change you for life. And then, like, yeah, to an extent, I mean, I could see that as some kind of exploitation. I mean, I'm a commentary person. You know, what do commentary YouTubers and whatnot, their content creators do? They take advantage of people's misfortunate situations, and it's kind of just a fact, and they just harp on them. And you know, I like to think I do it better than others, but hey, you know what? Like, that might just be a cope. Wow, these guys are stuffing my butt. That might just be like a little silly cope. And, you know, she feels like, I mean, like, that's one of the things. She has a truly traumatic situation that happened to her. And so, you know, it's going to be hard for her to move on from it because people are going to constantly talk about it. You know what I mean? I mean, at the very least, if they're going to make money. I get that. It's very interesting. It's very interesting.
But also, and you get paid to take his life.
No, not at all.
Okay. So if you profited off of if I profit off of anything, it's my hard work afterwards.
Yeah.
It's my hard work to share and be of service.
This guy's weird. I don't know, man.
People hate profit. Sometimes they just hate you just because you made money.
Yeah.
For me, as a speaker and a trainer, I struggled with that for a long time, right? You know, I committed this crime, and yes, I did all the work that I've done to become the man that I am today. But then sometimes I don't sleep at night, right, knowing that I've made this bag of money or whatever. Any money I get, I want to be able to live comfortable. It's not about getting something in luxury. How could I help some young person? So we do the nonprofit work. But my 5-year goal now, a 10-year goal, is to use whatever profit I make is to create a foundation in honor of Gary. Going back to that promise I made to him almost 30 years ago inside of a prison cell.
It initially started as me writing a journal. My dad suggested I did that. I was going through.
I don't know if it's just me, but there's something, and like I could just be wrong, but there's something that feels a little dishonest about that one dude who shot his friend. There's something weird about it. Like, I don't know. Is it just me? Am I just like too cynical?
A hard time self-medicating and contemplating some bad decisions. Started off as that, and it got picked up by a major book publishing company, and it went on to become essentially like an autobiography of that time in. After accomplishing that, I went on to what I do currently, which is write, you know, novels and stuff like that. Not based on my life, because I did feel a certain way about it, of profiting from killing, you know. I get what you're saying too. All the work that you put in there after, that's on you, you know, but I also see it as, well, I killed all these guys and I wrote a book about it and profited from it.
Were you an E4, E5?
Is that like the common denominator between them all? Is that they like wrote books or something, or they're famous in some capacity? Because it seems like he had, or maybe they just, I don't know, like how did they vet these people? I wonder. Funny joke, because he's actually a vet, right? You become a vet like forever, right? Doesn't matter how old you are. Veteran, veterinarian. Maybe he's just weird. Maybe he's just strange.
Right? Once again, complex issue that gets lumped together. If somebody has money, they must be doing something for profit. Yeah. And I think where an answer is, I mean, do we follow purpose or do we follow the money? It's going to go away when I die. It's not going to matter. What's going to matter when I die is what I did. Am I proud of myself for the things that I did?
I often see money more of like as an amplifier for what people can do, what reach they can do.
Yeah, what you can make impact on now, like knowing like when I go speak to young people today about gun violence and about my story, the only way they can get out of a situation is if I have money, right? That I can create a safe space for them to go after school. So I have to make some money to be able to do that, you know what I mean? But I don't want to make a bunch of money and I'm living here and then I walk into the community and say, hey, young kids, put the guns down, prison, say no to prison. Then I drive away in this nice car and forget about them, right? So that's where I'm at. Like, purpose for me is about how do I make impact in the lives of the people that I serve.
Taking a life was part of God's plan for me.
Well, maybe. I don't know, man. That might be a little bit of a cope if you say yes to that. I mean, I guess if you're religious, that would be considered God's plan, though. Interesting. Part of God's plan for me.
3, 2, 1, go.
Crowbar. No, I didn't mean to destroy it.
I'm unclear with that one. That's why I'm like this.
You're on the other side.
I wouldn't be who I am today to be able to have the experience that I've had and become who I've become without taking a life. I learned my lesson after all the killing. You know, my last deployment dropped over 30 guys, 33 people, and who knows how many before that. But what I had to...
I wonder, and this has got to be true in some capacity, but I wonder if there's like a different experience with killing somebody if it's like as a sniper. You know? Only because you're far away. Does it make them seem like not as... It's like less intimate, I would imagine. You know, when you're right up in someone's face and you have to shoot them or stab them. That's like a very intimate way of killing somebody. I wonder if there's like a relationship with that as well. So...
Get through and overcome to stand here today far exceeded anything I've done in the military. Being emotionally somewhat strong and what I've had to overcome. There's been a lot of dark nights where I didn't think I was going to be here, you know?
Personally, I actually like the Ben Affleck version though, so... but I think it's a little... I just didn't like the writing, you know what I mean? I think that was the biggest issue I had with it. So.
Well, I'm like this.
Yeah, I know what you mean though,
I don't want it to be perceived to be insensitive about the victim.
Yeah.
Right? But I know on this part of me, I look at my friends who I grew up with at 19 years old, and I did 22 years in prison, and when I came back home, they were at the same spot under the same tree we sold drugs at. But then if I think about the Gold Dingers family, because you know their son is like, oh, God destined my brother or my son to die. You know what I mean? So.
But if you believe in God, then that would be, He already knew that before.
I get that part. You know? I mean, I'm a spiritual man, right? But I'm just like, I don't want it to. It's just that's my dilemma when it comes
to God. I don't think that He's letting some kid be blown apart in Iraq because he's busy helping me look for a parking space, right? I don't think that the realm of the spirit is as concerned with human affairs. I think that the sun rises and sets for a reason. It rockets through space at 40,000 miles an hour with a bunch of rocks around it for a reason, and animals have instinct for a reason, and I think human beings, it's a little different. And I think things just happen sometimes. There doesn't have to be meaning or a plan.
But then it's hard for a person who lost a loved one to wrap that. For me, my homicide is completely different than most of you in this room. Is someone died by me pulling this trigger. And I can't say it was in God's plan.
I pulled the trigger too. I thought the gun was empty. And I still can't wrap my head around a stupid decision like that. Even though that it malfunctioned and acted unloaded, had I done all the right things, the 4 safety rules, it never would have happened. And I was nervous coming here because I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking. And I had no intent at all. There's no way I would have assumed put it to my head or at the floor or whatever. And I can't remember ever doing that before or after. And it was a mistake.
I think for me, it was part of my dharma. I'm a little bit more spiritual, so I think it was my life's purpose, to be honest.
Dharma?
Because of what I do today.
I've never heard that term before. What is that? The external and inherent nature of reality Oh, okay, interesting. So I guess so she feels like it's her fate in some instance. Okay.
Whenever I speak, I always have people contact me and say that they left an abusive relationship or what I shared helped them get out of their attack.
Sharing your story helps other people.
Yeah.
You feel that.
I call it transparency transports people.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like really honest about who I am, because there's someone else, not just in a physical prison, but an emotional, mental prison. And by hearing your story, hearing all of our stories, it helps transport them to another space of showing that I can't escape this particular prison.
After having this discussion, Lester, choose a side.
shouldn't be. Are you trying to say that like he mentioned before he got charged for physical murder or third or whatever degree murder? I mean, it's possible that they like downcharged it or something after the context. It sounds like he initially got charged with the particular, you know. But then again, I could just not know what I'm even on about. So.
Really?
I'm just gonna say I don't think it's fair to make you choose a side. You believe what you believe.
I'm gonna stand just a little bit over Please, like respectful.
I really like what you did, man, because we move in seconds and inches.
Yeah.
We measure progress in like
I'm right here.
years, you know?
Yeah.
That was kind of a lot.
What's up?
This episode was just sort of intense, and I think I need a little time to debrief now.
What is this? Is this an ad?
Life's got you down bad, huh?
Yeah, just a little, you know, sometimes I need a big
What is happening here?
hug or some reassurance that everything will be okay in the world, you know?
Here, try the Skylight app. Maybe it can help you feel connected to the universe a little more. And
Okay, this is the weirdest ad. I get putting an ad here. I have no problem with him putting an ad in there, but the way that they propose, I'm so depressed from this segment. Hey guys, use this app that's supposed to make you feel better. It's like, are you trying to depress me to make me feel better? It's confusing the way that they proposed it.
help you feel more grounded.
But okay,
you
sure.
Skylight, you needed me.
Okay.
There are enough resources for me to heal.
Interesting question.
3, 2, 1, go.
When I was in the military, it was like looked down upon to go seek mental help or anything.
Yeah, I feel like this guy, I mean, like, well, they said are there enough resources for me to heal? I mean, that's very vague, like what kind of resource, like spiritual. But I feel like in the military specifically, there are really not enough resources to help people heal. I just feel like it's one of the issues of being in the military. I feel like they do a good job programming you to be a good soldier, but they may not necessarily do the best job at deprogramming you from being a soldier, you know? I feel like that's could be a huge issue with some of these people or some people in the military. That's a problem.
Dude, you'd get kicked off the team, you know, in a heartbeat. I don't want a guy who's soft watching my back, you know, or what I perceive at the time to be soft. Yeah. After each deployment, our therapist was like a 18-wheeler truck full of kegs of beer and more beer. And 12 hours ago, I just took a life, 21 years old, at a strip club in Atlanta, drinking, you know, till my eyes pop out to cope. We would talk to like a psychiatrist, but we were encouraged to write down, you know, I didn't have this emotion, I didn't see this, so we could get home early to see our family. But 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I decided to talk to someone and figure out why I was the way I was, because I wanted to change. I didn't like being, everywhere I went, you know, I'm looking at everyone and it's gonna sound so bad, but I was polite to everybody who I met, but I always in the back of my mind had a plan to kill them, just in case the situation
I told you, this guy's scarred for life. I understand what he's saying, though. I mean, when I get it, you know, always having a contingency planning of what if that person is the enemy. I have to have it's like Batman. I mean, that's like Batman, bro. That's literally Batman. There's an actual. I think he mentioned Batman before, or I mentioned Batman like an idiot because he said something. There was a lot of Dark Knights, and then I made a Batman joke. So I'm an idiot. Wow, I'm a fucking moron. But still applicable. He has a contingency plan to kill literally everybody in the Justice League. So
presented itself.
That was the most nerd, weird, loser brain tangent I've ever went on in my entire life. Holy fuck! I'm actually ashamed of myself. Unironically.
Something went south. I've already mapped out and planned for 3 different scenarios how I would kill this person, and I was comfortable being in that state of mind because it kept that protection, you know, that wall up. But it gets tiring after a while to always be that way. You know?
For me, and look at this, right? I want to run over here to the strongly disagree. It's almost because of the length of your sentence, and like I was serving life, I didn't become eligible for most of the classes in prison until I came down to my last 3 years in prison, right? Now I have to run back over here to strongly agree. After being a person who's been released from prison, I've learned these different things that now help me to cope with all of the stuff that comes with me living inside of a prison, not only being a person who took someone's life, but seeing other individuals get killed inside of the prison, right? You see people get stabbed in prison over some of the simplest things. No one would come and talk to you about, like, was that triggering for you? How did you saw this person blood spill out over the concrete? Nothing, right? This is why I challenge the prison system and anyone who works in that prison environment to create more mental health services for those in prison, because yes, that person may have committed a violent crime, but we don't know their story.
I'm like that with the military, man.
Yeah.
There's not enough, in my opinion. It's
VA
not encouraged enough, yeah.
The VA helped me somewhat, right? I'm not going to say the VA didn't help. But when I was suicidal, I didn't call the VA helpline because I didn't want to sit here and fill out a strongly agree and disagree form and wait in a waiting room. And I called another brother, and he sent me to a program called Save a Warrior, and I experienced something.
This is the military?
It might sound weird, called initiation there. The participant faces their own death, and they receive a transitional object. And something about that changed my psyche, and something clicked. And we did stuff like the ceremony for the dead there, where we write the names of the people we've lost and the people we've killed, and we
They do their own death ceremony? Did I hear that right? That's interesting.
faces their own death. And I experienced something, it might sound weird, called initiation there. The participant faces their own death, and they receive a transitional object. And
that's interesting. I wonder if that's like supposed to go along with some kind of spiritual rebirth. That's interesting.
Where we write the names of the people we've lost and the people we've killed, and we get to cry, like feel and process and become human again, because war can break us, and prison can break us and make us incomplete and not human. And when we use different modalities to place that humanity back together, then we can have community, right? And community is the antidote to a lot of human suffering.
Yes, sir.
I wrote a 12-step program for vets and first responders called SPARTA, Suicide Prevention and Resilience Training Anonymous. We meet once a week. And I used to think there wasn't enough resources, and the more I get involved, it's not that the help isn't needed, it's that there's abundant ability to create resources. Right? And once we break that, we start to be the creator of it, we create this small nonprofit that serves the area. It's like the Matrix fails, you know?
Yeah.
That was long, sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Well, I have to apologize for like chuckling when you said that part, because I was like, oh wait, I have a plan to kill people too, unfortunately. And then I used humor as my trauma response sometimes. So I strongly agree that I have the resources and the tools I need, because I'm gonna forever be on my healing journey, and I'm always gonna look for them and find them. However, talk therapy, I don't think is very beneficial to a lot of people. I think that a lot of therapists need to learn about the nervous system, because a lot of what we went through, we had to use our fight response. So I had to learn how to calm my nervous system to get to homeostasis, to the baseline.
It's like as a person of color, it's like growing up, like as an immigrant, it's more.
It's interesting. She doesn't think talking through, I mean, that's her experience. I wonder maybe there is a level of truth to that. I feel like therapy is a very difficult thing. It's so hard because there's so many, like, it's so hard, I think, to be a therapist. I think that we have a lot of, it's just a difficult situation, you know, because there's, you know, first and foremost, not therapy doesn't really work on everybody, because not everybody's honest and with themselves or with their therapist. And you have to be completely vulnerable. And then you have to make sure that, you know, the therapist that you have is taking care of you when you're being vulnerable to them, because then they could also have, like, if once you give somebody so much of your mind to that person, that really can cause, you know, them to take advantage of you, whether it's intentional or not. So, you know, she maybe just doesn't work for her. I mean, it makes perfect sense. Maybe she feels like she can't be honest with the person, or maybe she just doesn't really respect people that haven't gone through something similar to her. And that makes sense. I'm not even saying that that's a bad thing from her. I would completely understand that. So yeah, interesting.
More like it is what it is. When you like things happen, it's like you don't really like, oh yeah, go see your therapist or anything like that. Especially working through the pandemic, I have never seen like that much death in my whole life, and I've been doing this for, at the time, like 10 years. And this was before the vaccine, and I'm like, I don't see the end of this tunnel yet. For me to quit the job would mean other people would die. And for me to continue this job, meaning I would die. And then that was the first time I'm like, I really don't know what to do right here. And that's the first time I'm like, wait, there's this thing called therapist. Maybe I should go talk to one. I wish it was more readily available and accepted at the same time, because none of my friends go and see their therapist. And I can completely tell them, like, you wouldn't have certain amount of issues if you just kind of worked on yourself in a different way. You know, or maybe not a therapist, but like a different way, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
just
like coaching.
Right here too, again, I want to run over here, right? Went in prison at 19, walked out, I was 41, into a completely different world, right?
Wow.
So now, like, my organization, Path to Redemption, is that I want to provide that service. Like, how do you cope with when you walk into a grocery store after 20 years and you walk in a self-serving line, you got to swipe that card and you don't know how, or you walk through a line and it beeps, right? And you thinking that is going to be tackled by the police because they think you're stealing something, right?
Yeah, I had a similar story about this checkout line, you know, of course, today. I had to go grocery shopping for my wife, and it was already just a bad experience in general, you know. I guess I went for us, technically, but, you know, it was just a bad experience in general. I get there, and the self-checkout guns aren't working. I don't know if you guys know what those are, but those are the guns that you use to scan your items while you're shopping, and then you could just scan it at the end of self-checkout and you're good. That wasn't working, so that was annoying. Then I tried to get a bunch of I tried to get a bunch of stuff, but everything in every refrigerator section, whether it was dairy or whatever, was just out of service. I guess they were having a problem, so that wasn't working, so that irritated me. And then, of course, I get to my line, and this woman brought a fucking dog. Not like a guide dog or something, or an official dog. She just brought her fucking dog. And you say, Papa, how do you know that? Because this old, ugly, mop-looking piece of shit just starts barking as soon as I get to the line. Now, of course, it wasn't actually me that the dog was barking at. The dog was barking at a disabled person, right? So I guess that disabled person made the mistake of being disabled. And, you know, that's, you know, whose fault is that, am I right? The dog just started barking at the woman relentlessly. Felt bad for her. Dog wouldn't stop, and the woman wasn't even like trying to get her dog to stop in any meaningful way. She was like, "Oh, stop!" Like just like softly speaking to her obnoxious dog, right? And I hate that. I hate it when people bring their non-service animals to like whatever. It's just childish, entitled behavior. You know what I mean? That though, then you know you're not really allowed to ask You're not really allowed to ask them if it's a service dog. I don't think legally. You know, like somebody who has an actual service dog. You're not allowed to ask them, and you obviously have to accommodate them. But it's clear, like you know when like the service dogs act so like obedient, so you know if it's a service dog or not. And it's just like shitty behavior. It's just annoying, and the dog wouldn't shut the fuck up. And of course, like she's taking forever. It's not like she's done. She's leaving. She's taking for fucking ever because she's an idiot, I guess, and doesn't know how to do her self checkout. And then of course, to make it even worse for me, my call, like I have a credit card that they sent me that was defective, so the chip doesn't work, but the magnetic strip works, so I have to insert it 3 times, so it'll even let me slide the magnetic slip. And so I was on the line even longer than I wanted to be. And then after that finally finished, finished itself there, it wouldn't scan, it wouldn't strip. But the magnet wouldn't work, so I had to use a different card, and then like that wouldn't work for whatever reason, so I had to restart the order. And listen, I just fucking hate people who don't have who take their fucking dogs or whatever, take advantage of the rules that are there to like help people that actually need like emotional support animals, or guide dogs or whatever. It's annoying.
And this is why, like, you and I, individuals can create that.
You're gonna be paid.
I'm running over.
All right, so there is not by any means enough space to talk about, like, I was a foster kid, right?
Yeah.
So I got raised in poverty and abuse and negative relationships. So what did I do when I grew up? I created poverty and I created negative relationships, right? And that type of a wound is such a cultural taboo that there's not a space to talk about that and the impacts, and then what do we do and where do we go from there? So
come on back over here. You got me feeling kind of. I was saying I wanted to do it, right? But I think that's important, man.
And everybody in this circle is a wounded healer and also a servant leader, right? So when we see a gap in something that's needed, it's not just us. So that's where a tremendous opportunity is to create and be of service to other people like us.
I would say it was dope talking to y'all, like learning the different angles of, because I was kind of like skirmish about that title killer, but listening to all of the different facets and challenges of it, I really appreciate it. For me, I go back to South Carolina and go back into the Department of Juvenile Justice and work with these young people. This is what I want to take back, right? Like this, I want to take that.
Same boat, man. A lot of preconceived notions we have about people. I might look at you a certain way, and never would have had a clue that there's a commonality or something we can all relate on and learn from.
It's not every day you get to meet someone that's taken life, or and for me it's made me feel
I wonder if
alone
they'll become
at times,
friends.
and not be able to be understood by people because of the emotions and stuff that we have to go through.
All right. Well, that was a very interesting segment.